Welcome to the Articulating with Jesus podcast. On today's episode, I'll be interviewing Dietrich and Braden loves, or who I call Square. We'll be interviewing each other on Braden's life at Cedarville. Both of these fine gentlemen are RAs at Cedarville University. So what got you interested in being an RA?
I would say, first of all, I think being an RA is just a good position to be in to learn life skills, how to be around people, how to lead in different ways to deal with maybe, unexpected circumstances. And kind of the main reason I wanted to do it is it's a great position to be in to pour into guys and to disciple because you're living with them.
Yep.
And so I think in some ways it's kind of the best model of discipleship because they can see, not only your spiritual life, but also like how you just do daily living.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the two reasons for me.
Before I ask any further questions, what's your year and what major are you?
So I'm a junior history major, and I have a missions minor, which you only hear at a Christian school. And I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm Braden Lose, technically a junior by age, but I'll be graduating this year, so I'm a senior by credit. I'm a finance major with the Bible minor, obviously, and I have intent of coming back next year and starting in the MDiv program. So, yeah.
Let me ask you the same question I asked Dietrich. What's your favorite part of being an RA, and how did you get into being an RA?
To answer the second part of your question first, I had a really great RA my freshman year. His name was Steven, and he really poured into me and a lot of the other guys in our hall. So a lot of great memories came from him. He was just someone that I looked up to a lot at the time, but spiritually and just as a man, even though he was only a couple years older than me. But I knew that because of that experience, because of the time and the effort and all that he poured into me, I wanted to do the same for other people. And so that was kind of my inspiration behind wanting to do it, besides like what Dietrich said of it just being a great discipleship opportunity. So the people that came before me and the people that I knew that God would put in my life were really the reason that I did it. And I would say that the conversations I get to have are my favorite part for sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
How's it like being in a Christian university in a hall that's very far from everything else on campus?
Which, is that a two-part question?
It's a one-part question.
Just about it being far away?
Yep.
Oh, I don't know. I think over time you kind of get used to it.
Okay.
Brock, I think definitely because it's in its own little corner of campus, Brock kind of forms its own identity, we'll say, and we'll leave it up to the audience to determine whether that identity is positive or negative. Yeah, I think after you get used to it, I mean, I've been in Brock for 3 years, so is Braden, so you don't really mind the distance after that. Well,
I feel like all roads lead back to Brock in some way.
true.
I don't mind it being so far because I feel like somehow we always end up being a center of activity, despite how far away we are. I don't know if that's just because of all the friends I've made from Brock or what, but I don't mind it a lot because the people there are great. The walk's not that bad except for whenever it's freezing cold, and even then it's still bearable.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people there make it worth it, so I'm not too concerned about it being in the boondocks of Cedarville.
What is your favorite Bible verse?
I like Philippians 3:12, which is it's Paul talking about he had just finished talking about all things. He counts all things as loss compared to knowing Christ. And then verse 12, he says, not that I've already obtained this, like perfection, kind of. Not that I've already obtained this or I'm already perfect, but I press on to make it my own because praise Jesus made me his own. So I think of my walk, just my motivation is not the best word, but my desire to kind of persevere comes from the idea that Jesus reached out and saved me first. That makes sense. So that's just, I don't know, kind of a life verse, I guess, for me. I guess it is for all Christians in some way, but I particularly am fond of that verse. So
I can read you mine and then kind of talk about it. So My favorite one is Romans 11:36, or at least one of my favorites, which says, "For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be the glory forever. Amen." So that's kind of what I use as a guiding force, remembering that my life is for him. That is the ultimate purpose that I serve, is to honor and glorify him. Through him, remembering that he is the giver of all good gifts, that he's what sustains me, what gives me strength, what gives me health, what gives me everything that I have in this life. And to him, like, the goal of my life, like I said, is to live for him. All my actions are to him, for his name's sake. And just to end that off, to him be the glory forever. If my life, or Dietrich's life, or your life, or anyone listening to this, if the end goal of your life is to bring God glory, if you do that, if you bring God glory, if you proclaim the gospel, and then you're forgotten, I would say that you've lived a great life.
Yeah. I was at a Synergy initiative. If anyone doesn't know, that's like this church planning initiative to get people mobilized to go to different churches across the country after they graduate. But I was at this meeting the other day, and Dr. Kimball was talking about, he was like, are you okay with anonymity, with not being known, with like your ministry or your life being, obscure? Are you okay with living in obscurity? And I feel like that's our call, I think. But it's so hard to wrestle with the desire for my name to be known. So that was convicting for me.
Yeah,
that just made me think of that.
Yeah, there was something about that in chapel earlier this year. I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, live your life, proclaim the gospel, and be forgotten. And that's really stuck with me since then, because I know that my pastor for a while, he was like, if I can live my life and on my tombstone it says, here lays a dead guy that loved Jesus. If that can be my legacy, if the gospel is my legacy, if people knowing Jesus is my legacy, then I would say that that's the best place you can be. But yeah, that's been a big challenge for me since then. But yeah, quick plug for Synergy.
Great plug. I know, but check it out.
Going on from that, how do you incorporate those spiritual truths into being a residential assistant at Cedarville University?
From that verse specifically?
No, from what both of y'all talked about.
Oh, yeah. What I'm not saying with this is that people underappreciate res life, because res life is hard. It's kind of a hard job, and you deal with a lot of things, and you're very up close to the people in your hall. You're up close to their problems and it's not just, I'm going to see you 1 hour, for a little bit each week. You might be up in my room for 3 hours talking through hard stuff.
You're intimately involved in their life, regardless of what it is.
Right. So I think how what we were just saying applies is that I'm sure Braden has, I know every RA in Brock, and I'm sure every RA on campus has gone through a lot of things where they've had to set aside a lot of time and kind of pour out themselves for another person, listen to what's going on in their lives, try to help them in some way. And no one ever finds out about that.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of put ourselves aside and be okay with, like, if it's me and another guy talking in another room, we're going to be the only two people that know that we had that conversation. So you kind of have to die to self and not, like, I'm not going to have a hard conversation with a guy and then go toot my own horn in front of other people. You have to be okay with, God sees your service, and that's kind of it. And there's a lot of those kind of moments, I would say, in res life.
Yeah. I think it's one of the biggest blessings, though, is just the opportunities to be faithful that we're presented with. We have the opportunity as RAs to kind of be the point person whenever there's a conflict or whenever there's something going on, which I feel like I definitely take for granted sometimes, is that people are like, hey, Braden, I have a problem. Can I talk to you about it? Yeah. Because I love people. I love talking to them about whatever's going on. I love just to listen to them. But that's one of the biggest blessings, is being able to have people come and talk to you instead of seeking them out. But it is also very emotionally draining at points, which I know both of us have definitely had some hard conversations this year. Yeah. Lots of good conversations, but also hard conversations. And so remembering the gospel, faithfully preaching the gospel, and reminding whoever you're talking to of those truths is definitely a big thing about res life. It's something I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be a part of.
Yeah. You get the unique opportunity that when those conversations arise, minister the word, like very practical, and you got to use it right, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's a very real people. It's a blessing in the sense that people will come to you wanting to talk, and like so long. There's so many times like in the past where I would just love to have an opportunity to speak into someone's life like that, and I feel like Res Life is cool because people will come to you.
Yeah.
And not that. Yeah, you welcome that. I welcome that. Even though it can be difficult, the conversations can be difficult. Welcome it.
Most of the guys on your hall are on the soccer team, right? Most of the guys in your hall are freshmen.
Actually, no. I only have 6 freshmen in my hall, so most of mine are returning students. I think I have the lowest number of freshmen in Brock, besides maybe your hall. Yeah, but you also have the basement.
Myself, yeah, I have the soccer guys and also a lot of athletes / athletic guys in the basement.
So. You have the guys that are near the laundry machine.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
How do you maintain and facilitate community with all the people in your hall? And how do you kind of be a friend while also being like, oh, if you don't do this, I'll PC you or I'll punish you?
Yeah. That's a hard, especially because I knew a lot of the guys that would be in the hall coming into the year. I was thinking about that even during the summer of this is going to be a hard balance.
Yeah.
Of I have to not be soft on the responsibility that I've been given as an RA. But also I have to, continue relationships, form relationships with guys I don't know.
Yeah.
And so navigating that has been tricky. I think if by God's grace, figured it out somewhat.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. Yeah. It's a tough thing because when you've known a guy for a while, in some sense you would think it'd be easier for you to tell them, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's actually kind of harder. So it's kind of an incomplete answer, but I would honestly say I'm still learning how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know with my hall, kind of similar to what he said, I knew every single person except for one before I moved in, which was strange because I obviously a freshman, but God gave me a group of people that I knew very well in different fashions and different forms and by different means. But thankfully, all the guys in my hall are pretty close to each other. Whenever I had talks with our RD TJ, it's almost easier for me to refer it to my hall as 3 back west and 3 back east because so the east side of the hall is kind of random. It's my 3 freshman rooms and then 2 sophomore roommate pairs. But then on the other hall, back west, as we love to call it, it's a group that's been together for the most part for 3 years now in Brock. And so that's been really cool seeing how they have their unique bond. They're really close. Every single one of those guys loves the other one, would do anything for them, knows each other very well. But also how they've been able to kind of adopt the guys into the other hall, into the group. Something that's very unique in our hall is we have 3 sets of brothers. So we have me and my younger brother. We have Zach Brockman and his younger brother, Xander. And then Andrew Kosnick and his younger brother, Josh. I guess I have to name Connor because I gave all the other brothers. Connor and me are the 3rd set of brothers. So it's really cool to see how those relationships have changed. Because obviously for a while it's, oh, this is my little brother. I don't want this kid around. This kid stinks. He's not cool, all this and all that. But it's been cool to see how not just the brother pairs have grown in their relationships, but also how the hall has just become really close. And it's something that I'm very thankful for to have a hall like that where the community is just encouraged as much as it is most of the time without me even doing anything.
Those brother pairs are a lot of generations. If you have like one single generation in each room that has a pair.
Yeah, that's true. I know that me and Connor are both 2nd gen, so it's kind of like, oh, are you going to Cedarville too? I know about Dak and Xander and Andrew and Josh, but yeah, it's definitely cool to see. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been able to talk to him a lot. That doesn't mean he's listened to me all the time, but it's been good to have conversations about what my freshman year looked like, mistakes that I made, things I wish I could go back and change. And obviously I'm not perfect and I'm not claiming to be perfect, but there are some things where after you've seen them once happen to you and then similar things happen to people the year after, you're like, not that I figured, like you said, not that I figured it out, but I may know a thing or two. You can speak into it. Yeah. So that's been a cool opportunity also. Right.
How have you seen that Res Life has impacted or that you get to impact someone else in their walk with Christ?
Mm-hmm. Want me to take this one first? Yeah, go for it. Okay. I know that hall Bible studies have been a big thing with our group. It's probably my favorite time of the week. I look forward to it every Thursday night because we'll have our RA meeting as a Brock staff. We'll get together, we'll talk, figure out whatever random thing TJ has on the agenda for and then I get to go immediately to Bible study. So most of the time at the end of those meetings, I'm like, guys, I gotta go. But so I kind of sprint out of there, grab my iPad, grab my notebook, and we'll just sit down and we'll talk for normally like an hour, hour and a half about stuff that God's been teaching us, stuff that we're learning. I didn't want my whole Bible study to be me talking at them. I wanted it to be very conversation based. So we go over all of our notes from the chapels from the week and then sometimes get into just questions that we have about spiritual things or just things going on in our personal life, personal devos, prayer requests, all that stuff. So it's just a good time of fellowship. And then that's led to some really good conversations. But then on top of that, just one-on-one conversations because the church it's a communal thing, but it's also an individual thing where you're able to build relationships and spur each other on to loving good works individually. So I would say that's been a big thing is those big group conversations where we're able to push each other, hear about where we're struggling, talk about it, encourage one another. But then also those individual conversations where we're able to dig in a little deeper. And if there's something that they didn't want to necessarily share, they're able to share it with me in confidence and we can kind of work through that. So that's been a big blessing is having that group who's willing to show up and put up with me every Thursday.
Yeah. The question was, what's been the most impactful for you or other people in your walk with Christ for Res Life?
What's been the most impactful for other people that you've done as part of residence life at Cedarville in their walk with Christ?
Yeah. I think the number one thing, similar to you, Braden, but is that a lot of the guys in our hall are already involved in Bible studies. Yeah. So we do just a weekly prayer night, and we have the same 5 or 6 guys come every week. But that is really, all I did was host it. It's God's kind of totally taken the wheel with it. It's been really cool to see, and just we pray for one another. But during that time, you're talking about requests. You're being vulnerable in prayer. You're, group prayer doesn't come easy to a lot of people, but you learn that skill in the group. Just it's been a sweet time of fellowship and brotherhood, and we've from that been able to get to know one another really, really well. Prayer often precipitates really deep spiritual conversations about things, which is really cool. We've been sometimes after we've prayed, we've just spent an hour and a half talking after, and it's been really cool to see just those guys get close with one another, form partnerships with each other in different things. That I would say that's been the biggest blessing. And really, last week I wasn't able to go, and they had it without me. Like two freshman guys led it. It was awesome.
That's it. So that's good.
That's been absolutely the biggest thing, I think, this semester.
So if I recall, both of you, after you graduate, want to do further stuff in like church ministry and stuff.
Ministry of some kind, for sure. So trying to figure out where God's leading in that fashion. Yeah, at least for me.
Ministry and or missions. Yeah.
How's being an RA and kind of leader and teacher, communicator of God's word in that sense help you or prepare you for those future roles of leadership?
We'll start. Sure. Yeah. The one thing that comes to me immediately is you want to learn how to minister the word to people going through real life things. That's such a valuable skill, and it's a hard skill because you don't want to you don't want to do it in a way that's superficial, or you're not fully taking into account like their whole situation. You have to do it in a way that isn't like, oh yeah, you're suffering. Here's this commonly used Bible verse. You want to really, dig into God's promises and be able to speak into their specific life situation from that. I think that's a skill that I've grown in, but I've had to grow in it a lot this semester.
Yeah.
But it's really a blessing to see when people will take that and grow from it. Yeah.
Oh, I would say similar to what Dietrich said, like it just gives you a great opportunity to speak into individual situations.
Yeah.
I would say anything is good practice if you're faithfully speaking the word and you're given that opportunity. I know that this summer I got to work with kids at my church back home, from 6th to 12th grade. So that was incredible. But just getting to see a different age group, and being able to minister to them, and not even minister to them, but just be a part of their lives, it's been a big thing. It's helped stretch me. It's helped grow me. And it's helped just see how the gospel works individually, in everyone's life, and how God will use the gospel, the same passage, the same words, differently in each person's life at every stage. That the word is not limited to a certain context, to a certain person, to a certain place, but that it can be incredibly impactful in whatever stage of life you're in, wherever you're at.
Yeah.
So I think just getting to see the goodness of God, as I've translated from one part of my life to the other, coming from home, working at a church, and here in theory working at the college, it definitely doesn't feel like work. But yeah, I would say that that's been a really cool thing.
On that question, before we finish this conversation, is how have your ministry experiences this summer helped you prepare to, in a way, help others in their walk, but also facilitate conversations, not just about Christian life, but about like other stuff as well?
Yeah. Dietrich pointed at me, so I'm going to start. I don't know. I get very excited to talk about this. This summer, like I said, I got to work with the students at a church back home. They taught me more than I could ever hope to teach them. They're the coolest. So shout out to my boys back home. Miss you all. But I think that showed me, in a way, just how God can work in situations and turn things that you see as so evil, that you see as unredeemable, that you see as these dark things, that God can use those for good, and that he can truly transform them. I know that with some of my guys back home, they had really very real conversations with me about stuff, and I had some very real conversations with them about stuff I've struggled with, stuff they've struggled with. And those conversations helped open doors for me, stuff that I was very unwilling to talk about the first time I talked about it.
Yeah.
But as I've as I've seen God work in those situations, it's definitely become so much easier to do it. And just realizing that, like, hidden sin, it's not good. Like, if you bring it into light, God will use it and God will redeem it. So,
Yeah.
God taught me a lot about that this summer, and then I was able to have many conversations with guys, just getting real about stuff, like I said, that I've struggled with, stuff that they have been struggling with, and I think that's led to a lot of good. So, I don't know. That was one thing that my guys back home and my opportunity has showed me. Yeah. God is good.
Yeah. Can you restate the question? I was listening to Brandon's answer. I forgot it.
It's okay. So the question was, how have ministry experiences back home help you in leadership, both like in ministry questions and in facilitating conversations with the people in your hall?
Yeah. It's a good question. It's a great question. So back home, I worked at a summer camp and kind of took the role of doing Bible studies and games, which isn't as applicable, but am involved with my church and our youth group, occasionally leading a lesson, trying to pour into the lives of a lot of those guys in the youth group. So I would say it prepared me in the sense of knowing how to maybe lead in a small group setting, how to facilitate good conversation. And I'm not perfect, but
No one is.
yeah, learning how to facilitate good conversations, because it is a skill to be able to facilitate a conversation into a good direction. Yeah. Learning how to do that, yeah, like I said, leading in a small group setting, the prayer nights that we do, that kind of thing, it kind of leading the Bible studies over the summer, it made that pretty easy and it feels natural. And especially when you start to develop relationships with guys, it gets even more natural.
Yeah.
It's cool to see. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I circle back to my answer too?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I would just say on top of that, just giving me like a drive and a passion for this that I don't think I necessarily had before. Seeing how the gospel can truly impact people's lives in my life and in the other lives of the kids that I got to be involved with. It's definitely a motivator for me. If I can be an example to them or to anyone else, if I can help disciple them or anyone else, plant the seed, water the seed, or harvest the seed, like it's an incredible motivator for me. And I think I have a heart for the gospel a lot more because of that opportunity and because of different things I got to see in all those kids' lives, that it motivates me now to, I don't know, just pursue God more wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Well, I think y'all said it really succinctly, but that concludes our episode of Articulating with Andres with these fine gentlemen, Dietrich and Braden Loves. Our next episode will be with the soccer team about their trip to Colombia, and it'll basically be about their impact on the trip and what the trip was. But thank you for listening to their Articulating with Andres podcast.